Hello and welcome. You are watching QTV and you are watching The Week in Review. I'm your host, Ade Darami, and sitting across from me as another knight of the round table, friend and colleague Mboj. Mr. Mboj, welcome to the program.
Cheers, Ade. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. And viewers present and, kind of future and past. If you're watching this for the first time, quick summation. It's called The Week in Review because we take 10 stories from the week just gone by and we go through them in some detail. So, and what have we got? Well, it was a kind of Q Group event, but it became a national event. And His Excellency the President was here and he made a few statements, threw down the gauntlet, particularly to the private sector. Also, the University of the Gambia this weekend, convocation, all grown up, the convocation. Why? Because it's the 18th one this weekend. And Mali, they've just held a state funeral for Sadio Camara, the defense minister who was killed in a suicide bomb attack. And the pictures of the devastation quite horrific. And China, big announcement which has been scrutinized across the world. I read lots and lots of Western papers. What's it about? Tariffs, tariff removal for 53 imports from 53 African countries. Also, Cuba, the medical brigade, commemorating 30 years of partnership with the Gambia. Also, Her Excellency, the First Lady, Fatima Barrow, she went to Gunjur on a kind of zero waste commemoration event. And also this week, 1st of May, it was May Day, and the workers, they didn't just march and do sports. They had some strong things to say about the current state of the economy and how far or not far their wages are going. Also, I was there at the 4th Banjul International Surgical Scientific Conference, and very good it was too, an eye-opener. Also, stop me if you've heard this before, National Dialogue on Cross-Border Tourism, between us, Senegal and us. Yes, we're back on that again. And also, His Excellency the President met Shelley Botry, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Our guy didn't get it, but a Ghanaian lady did get it. And he also met some women from the Women's Chamber of Commerce. So these are all the stories that we're going to be going through on tonight. So best place to start. Q Group, we launched Q Group House, our new headquarters. We also inaugurated the street that runs in front of it, QCell Avenue. We launched Gambia's first ever data center, and we launched Q Fiber. So we didn't do things by half. It was a big event, and it was a national event. And among those there was His Excellency the President, and here's some of what he had to say.
Whenever we inaugurate a structure, people usually focus on its architecture and elegance, without appreciating its significance. Today, I urge that, in addition to the magnificence of the Q Group House, we visualize what Q Group really signifies, how it impacts lives, and the magnitude of the services it offers. Only then would we realize that this event is a celebration of belief in the ability of Gambians to successfully execute their vision. Ours, or owning our destiny, align closely with the spirit of Yirwa, our national development agenda. The lesson is that true sovereignty goes beyond politics. It embodies economic strength, technological capability, and cultural confidence, as demonstrated through the public-private partnership nurtured in the country.
We heard His Excellency the President there, and I said that he kind of threw the gauntlet down. And one of the things he said, Mr. Mboj, amongst, as I said, we had these 4 big things that were inaugurated or launched on that day. But he said, the private sector must lead in terms of innovation, investment, job creation. Don't leave it all to government. And he used obviously Q Group as an example of Gambian-led thing doing exactly that.
And absolutely so. A country you create wealth really entrepreneurs really create wealth.
Yes,
Isn't
not
it?
governments.
Not governments
quite.
in any country
Yeah,
you go.
exactly.
So really, so here, what do you have? Now imagine if the country was to invest in creating a data center.
Yeah, quite.
How much money? You know what I mean?
Yeah, quite.
So certainly you have certain sectors that should be within the domain of the state,
Sure.
perhaps education,
Yes.
health, and even then you can
Yeah,
find
you
areas
can
where
still- yeah.
private sector can come in.
Absolutely.
But again, vast areas, be it energy, transport, tourism, you need an injection,
Yeah.
as it
Right.
were, of that private sector initiative.
Well, this is it. And part of that initiative has given us Q Group House, which is a smart building, the first. And it's interesting because speaker after speaker talked about not being limited by our imaginations. And yet, I ended up arguing with one guy, I have to say, online. Said, I don't believe any of this stuff. It's probably an empty building. And I invited him. I even sent him a private message saying, here's my phone number, come down and see. But it's like we even have to fight against ourselves because some of us refuse to think as big as Q Group has thought.
The chairman of the group said it in his speech.
Yep.
The ceilings we
Yeah.
put on our expectations.
This is it.
So that's it.
That's it,
That kind of person will tell, oh, I don't believe
Yeah.
it. Not interested in the facts.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to ignore it until people started liking the comment, and I saw the likes going up. I said, no, let me respond to this guy. I said, no, this is real. It's not a kind of AI generated stuff. Come down to the building. I said, it's Qcell Avenue and it's off Kairoba Avenue. You can't miss us. It's a big orange building. But the chairman nailed it, as you said. These are the kind of limits that we put, and it's more than that. You have to think big and bold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the idea of this PPP, absolutely, but having local ownership.
Yes.
You need the big players,
Yeah.
as it were, to be Gambians in certain
that's
key
right.
sectors, don't
Yeah.
you? I mean, of course, you're going to invite others. Capital
Yeah,
is
yeah,
now
yeah,
home.
yeah,
Capital
quite.
can just travel anywhere. You welcome that. But really, for resilience
Yeah, sure.
and really economic growth, the sustainable sort.
But it's,
Maybe it will help if you had like your locals
yeah.
leading, as it
Right.
were, in various sectors.
Sure.
I think that's really
Yeah.
very, very important.
And
really.
and then they said, this has been done by a Gambian, not by some alien. So, it can be done by us rather than always thinking that only outsiders can do this sort of thing.
And I think Sidinjai was interviewed and he mentioned Mohammed Jas' example, which is really very important.
Yeah.
Started from his bedroom. Really.
Yeah, yeah,
bedroom
quite.
was the office
Yeah,
with
quite.
few employees. And then 98, by 2009,
Yeah.
in just
No
10
problem.
years,
Yeah,
you've
quite.
got a GSM company.
Indeed.
And then with so many companies,
Yeah.
extraordinary growth.
Yeah, quite.
Now, perhaps a foreign company wouldn't bother investing in other areas.
Yeah, quite.
How many other companies, foreign owned, have really bothered
Yeah, that's
to
right.
expand?
Yeah, they've honed in on one thing.
They've just honed in on
And-
one thing,
and stuck with
and
that.
that's all they do.
Yeah.
Whereas with the homegrown one, you make profits, where would you go?
Yeah, quite.
You have to reinvest the profits here.
Yeah.
So we should wake up
Mm.
to the world we're living in now.
Yeah.
Country first.
Yeah, quite.
We're all hearing Donald Trump, America first.
Yeah.
We can see what's happening in Europe,
Quite.
isn't it?
No,
The
yeah.
geopolitical, the shift
Yeah.
really in these other countries.
Sure.
So country first is no longer rhetoric,
Yeah, quite.
as it has been mentioned before.
it's reality.
Now it is policy.
Yeah, quite.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
in the end,
Yeah.
your country will lose really.
Yeah.
Perhaps officials may gain here and there dealing with foreigners,
quite.
but
But
the
the
national
country, yeah.
level, the country will lose
Indeed.
really.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, country first. We're all going to be saying that. But thank you, Mr. Mboj. Story number 2, University of the Gambia, 18th convocation. I said, it's all grown up. The convocation, yes, 18th this weekend, and also the biggest in terms of numbers. But when I spoke to somebody from the university, they said, yeah, it's not just about numbers. It's not just about quantity. It's also about quality. Have a look. Have a listen.
We have some very important things. As you would know, the 2 largest programs where we're having the bulk of the graduates is from the School of Arts and Science, School of Business and Public Administration. That's where we're having the big numbers, just under half of the total. But we are also showing, for the first time, we'll be graduating dentistry in the history of this country. So that's something we've updated the Chancellor about. It's an important development for us. But also for the first time, we are graduating people with a PhD in law. It's over 1,600, so it's a historic figure. Previous years have been much lower than that, so we have these big numbers of graduates this year.
Big numbers, as I said, and when we had folks from the university come in, they said, yes, we're proud of the numbers, but we also want to stress that over the last, they kind of narrowed it down to 6-7 years. They felt that the quality had improved in terms of the instruction that they were getting and the people who they were bringing in. And so they said, yes, of course, we're proud of the fact that the numbers are swelling and also opportunities are opening for people to be able to come and study. But we want people to know that it's not just about quantity. Yeah.
Absolutely. Quality absolutely matters.
Yeah.
You see, I went online looking for, you have these organizations, don't they? Where they rank universities according to all sorts of criteria, isn't it? And Gambia ranked, they say, in the 51+ band. We are like sort of mid to lower tier regionally, as it were. But it's a young university, really. But just as you said, there's been improvements in so many different areas. And apparently our areas of strength is some in the liberal arts, social sciences, and medicine. I was surprised to learn that as well. So absolutely, that's what it is. We'll constantly be improving. We have to be honest. Sometimes you hear people say, University of the Gambia graduates in a dismissive way.
To be honest, I was one of those, and I'll say why. Because when I first joined QTV, and we got people who came straight from the university, and they applied, I was not impressed, I have to say. And I was even shocked that some of them who had done kind of journalism or media studies had never even so much as touched a camera or done anything on the practical level. It had all been theoretical. And I was horrified. I said, how did you get your degree? So I was one of those who, but that's certainly been changing in recent years.
Yes, and I also share that experience. We've experienced that sort of thing and thought, oh God, what's going on there? But still, you have to realize that something like a university constantly growing. We talk about our incapacity in all sorts of sectors, in all areas. Why shouldn't it evince itself within the university? We all understand that. So it's a question of patience and being grown up about these things. And then things are improving gradually.
Yeah, because when I had them on this morning, and I said to them that on a kind of, because I'd been involved in a survey in London before I moved here, about the number of West African nurses that were being poached by the British, National Health Service. And many of them were from the Gambia, a country that sorely needed them to stay. But of course, the money was better, conditions were better. Why wouldn't they go for it? But that has kind of lessened over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and certainly the quality had always been there, certainly in terms of health. And as you rightly said, the numbers have been quite surprising for health, but also, kind of quality of people who are coming through the schools of allied and health sciences, rather.
And retention will always be difficult. And I have this theory that it's going to be even more difficult in the future. We know that in the West they're aging, they need the workforce, and what they don't want, there's some people without skills going there. So they'll have special programs for all these specialists, all these areas, and I suspect that a lot of them will go because of the money. So I'm even more fearful for the future in many, many ways, that how many will we be able to retain? That is a massive challenge.
It's a massive
I'm scared
challenge.
about that.
But thumbs up to the university on its 18th convocation, and may it continue to get better.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. We have no doubt. I think from what we've seen from Professor Robinson.
Quite.
Yes, and we've got the Minister of Higher Education. Absolutely. It seems they're really dedicated. They really want to improve things.
Sure.
And yes, we should support them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Mr. Mbooj. Story number 3. This was one that I watched, I followed quite avidly. And it was the state funeral service for Sadio Camara in Mali. This came after there had been 2 days of national mourning, and it was 3 hours plus, and I watched all of it, and I have to say, very, very moving it was too. Have a look, have a listen.
These are the sounds and the scenes of a nation in mourning. Mali on Thursday laid to rest one of its most powerful military figures, General Sadio Camara. Ceremony held at Armory Square in Bamako was attended by senior military and government officials, foreign delegations, and a large crowd of citizens paying their final respects. Transitional leader General Assimi Goïta presided over the funeral, posthumously awarding Camara the rank of Army General, honoring what he described as his service to national security.
General d'Armée Sadio Camara.
One of Camara's sons said his father had written his name in Malian history and in the hearts of the Malian people.
Autour de la mémoire du général de corps d'armée Sadio Camara.
The attack targeted multiple strategic locations across the country, including Bamako, Gao and Kidal. Militants from Jenim and allied groups have claimed responsibility.
I watched it, as I said, Mr. Mbooj, and it was quite ironic that Assimi Goïta said that I'm giving him this posthumous honor because of his service to national security, particularly because of the way in which he died. And I didn't include in that clip, but the car bomb completely destroyed the house, and I mean completely. It's a 3-story building. It was reduced to rubble. The mosque next door to it was reduced to rubble, and another building on the other side. But then I started digging into Sadio Camara. He was seen very much as the architect of this current junta. Quite an intelligent guy. I saw him being interviewed on French TV. I listened and I watched the interviews, and articulate and quite cultured. And so I guess that's why I kind of felt kind of emotional watching the funeral. And of course, because people were crying, that sort of gets to you as well.
We want to
but you know, but this was, you know, it was a moving occasion, and it was a moving occasion. And as I said, I watched all 3 hours of it, and yeah, and you had people from, of course, Niger and Burkina Faso were there, but Guinea, Conakry also sent representatives. Yeah.
Being described explosion, the attacks, is the largest in 15 years.
Yeah.
Then makes you wonder.
Yeah.
And where was it? In a garrison town called Kati?
Kati.
Only 9 miles from Bamako.
And it was where he was born. It was his birth town. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is really very, very serious.
Yeah.
Would they be able to take Bamako? And the late Sadio Camara, as you said, was the mastermind behind this aligning, as it were, with the Kremlin, rather than with Paris
exactly.
or Washington, as it were.
Yeah.
Wagner Group morphed into Africa Corps.
Yeah.
Right now, Russia's caught up in Ukraine.
Yeah, quite.
How can they help?
And of course, they negotiated their own exit from Kati so that they wouldn't be attacked, which I thought was quite shocking. You know, the Wagner Group were allowed to leave without any arms, and the rebels said we won't attack them, you know, and then they left the Malians to kind of fend for themselves.
Yes, and apparently it was the Algerians who broke at that particular
that's right.
It is extraordinary what's going on here. This is what analysts have been saying for a very long time. Not simply the Sahel, West Africa, coastal West Africa is in danger.
Sure.
You cannot allow them to have any foothold
Right.
Can you imagine, should they take over Bamako? And here, what do you have? You have jihadists, Jenim, and you have the separatists, Azawad, Liberation Front, the Tuaregs, that's it. So they're not singing from the same hymn sheet.
Sure.
It's just a temporary marriage of convenience.
That's right.
And then imagine if they're going to split. What kind of war would that be?
Yeah.
So it should be worrying. I suspect that the whole of the sub-region, their security advisors would be having meetings and thinking about what's happening in Mali.
Sure.
It's just too close.
Because it has borders with 7 other countries. Absolutely. It's a huge country.
It's a huge country.
And of course, some of those countries include our neighbor, Senegal and Guinea, Conakry as well, Liberia, and so on. So it is huge, and all of those are countries close to us, as you said, the coastal. So if it spills over, who knows where it might lead. And the fact that somebody that high profile, so closely and tightly guarded, could be targeted, killed, to the extent where for 3 days we didn't even see Assimi Goïta on TV or anything else. They said he'd been taken to a safe location, and he thought, he's the head of state, surely he's always in a safe location. But no, and then eventually he emerged surrounded by some of his troops, some Russians as well. And it's very, very serious because in the heart of Bamako, some of the attacks took place.
And with him, he's not being guarded by Russians, but by the Turkish.
Yeah.
He's got his own Turkish security. So where are the Malians, as it were? So this is the thing. And they're blaming, really, to some extent, external forces, sounding very much like Russia, as it were. Instead of perhaps, maybe they're doing it, looking at your internal system. How effective is it? How efficient? What's going on here?
Well,
this is very, we should be very worried. I think the whole coast, one should be very worried. And maybe this will bring all of them together and realize that never mind that they've left ECOWAS, but it's an existential threat.
Absolutely,
we're bound to go and support them. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that. And that will take us to story number 4, Mr. Mboj. China, a big story, and big story not just in Africa, where it's kind of, but also in the West. I looked at almost every newspaper, Financial Times, The Times, they all carried it, you name it, they carried it. And what's it about? China removes tariffs on imports from 53 African countries. It sounds like a great thing, but is it? Have a look, have a listen, and we'll delve into it when we come back.
We want to thank the leadership of your country for having the foresight to bring about the zero tariffs, because if you look at what is coming from the West, the high tariffs that are being imposed, that is causing trade relations to be strained. Now, when you have a country like China that says zero tariffs, that actually encourages trade between the various countries.
Bilateral trade between China and Africa reached $348.1 billion in 2025, marking a 17.7% year-on-year increase. That momentum has continued until 2026, with the trade in the first quarter rising by 23.7% compared to the same period last year. Shi Yangli, section chief at Xinjiang Bay Customs House, highlights the trend.
In the first quarter of this year, Shenzhen's trade with Africa hit 31.19 billion yuan, approximately $4.57 billion, up 47% year-on-year.
Mr. Mboj, there are several angles to this. On the face of it, it seems to be a good thing. South Africa with apples, citrus fruits, Kenya, coffee and avocados, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, cocoa, all these free of tariffs. But there's another side to it, isn't there? I mean, I have a figure here. Says China's bilateral trade was 348 billion. Exports to Africa, 225 billion. Imports, 123 billion. Quite a huge gap. And also, is this going to be a case of yet more raw materials, which are, you know, cocoa, coffee and so on, in their raw state going, rather than being refined here, is this going to hold us back from that kind of industrialization that will make a difference?
For me, yeah, absolutely. The first thought for me was, I thought we already had duty-free other measures.
Yes, yes.
Didn't we? From that China-Africa cooperation,
yes,
as it were. But this time it's like 53, isn't it?
53, and they've also expanded it beyond, you know, what you know, for example, for the Gambia, because I made a note, I looked at just the Gambia one, and it said that the problem that Gambia might have, even with things like cashew nuts, they have to meet specific plant health requirements. Mm-hmm. They have to be of a certain size and so on, and all these, you know, phytosanitary kind of things that, you know, about the health and so on of the product have to be met before they'd be allowed into China. So it's not a free lunch
at all. From what I've read, large-scale exporters could benefit.
Yeah, quite.
Small-scale Gambia, maybe not so much.
Quite.
And they've also pointed out that maybe oil, minerals, still largely.
Yeah, quite.
Yes?
Yes, that's right.
We export raw materials and receive finished products.
Finished goods, mainly electronic stuff.
Mainly electronic
stuff.
Yeah,
quite.
This is this sort of dynamic, as it were, we're trying to reverse. We want to turn this. Quite. So that is really the key. Yeah. So a major question would be, are tariffs really our main barrier to trade? Some say not quite. Maybe capacity.
Yeah, indeed.
You haven't industrialized.
That's it.
There is no value addition. Yes. Can you meet their standards? Yeah.
And that's the hurdle. That's the hurdle that nobody spoke about when everybody was singing the praises. It's not that we're against it, but that's the reality of it. You know, and that's what I was getting to, saying that, you know, if all we're doing is sending out raw materials, then we're not sending refined packaged stuff to them, when everything we get back from them is refined, packaged, or in the case of electronic goods, you know, completely finished. They're not even sending them here to be assembled. You know.
So I think one analyst put it this way, and I think it encapsulates the whole thing perfectly. Zero tariffs will open the door, but production power decides who walks through. Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So it will depend, as it were, who's got the oil, the minerals, and if you can add value to your products, see what you can do. Yeah. So it just depends on what we do. So on the face of it, it seems okay, but there's so much that we need to do to take full advantage of it.
This is it. And one of the things I couldn't find, and I did search, and I'm usually quite good at finding, it says it's up to 2028, April the 30th, 2028. Like that, but it didn't say that then it will be reviewed. I was hoping to see at least that sentence. So I don't know whether it's up to then and that's it, or whether, you know, we hope that it won't be a case of that's it, because that we're talking just 2 years really. That's not exactly an eternity. You know, April 30, 2028, we're in May 2026 already.
Absolutely. Yeah. But we also know that China also wants to deepen its influence.
Indeed, of course.
There's something going on here, isn't there? And then they want to sort of encourage trade over the aid model, you know, that we're used to with the West, as it were.
That's right.
So they might have reasons why they would want to review
that's right.
and renew, as it were. Yes. So we want them for certain things. They also want us for other things. Yeah, it's just a matter of how do we leverage, you know, what we have, our competitive advantage. How do we leverage our advantage? We've been quite poor at that.
Well, that's right. And I think the thing you were searching for earlier when you mentioned the Gambia was that previously 33 least developed countries
exactly
benefited from it. Now another 20.
Now another 20 out of it.
And so yes,
that's it.
Yeah.
But when you evaluate with that measure of the least developed countries, how much was made? What difference, as it were? I'm sure you will see that the benefits were not evenly spread. Obviously, some countries gain more. I'm told that perhaps Ethiopia, Kenya, the big ones, big exporters, South Africa, the big importers will benefit. Which things I'm not so sure with us. Maybe not much.
Yeah, quite. But nonetheless, we welcome it. Thank you for that, Mr. Mberge. And now story number 5, which will also take us to the midway point in terms of stories. And Cuba, the Cuba Medical Brigade, they've commemorated, celebrated, whichever way you want to put it, 30 years of engagement with the Gambia. Have a look, have a listen.
So most of the specialists, like the only ENT doctor we have in the hospital is also from Cuba, the dermatologist from Cuba. So they are doing a lot of support, not only teaching people to become doctors, but they are also supporting the hospital so that we become doctors. And they are helping the patients in different areas, psychiatry, dermatology, everywhere they are helping. So we are really honored that they're here. And they are a very good team to have and to work with.
J. Modupe Grant is the president of the Gambia-Cuba Friendship Association.
Without the Cubans, the health sector is almost zero. They go to hard-to-reach areas. You go to Bansang now, they are there. You go to Basel, they are there. Irrespective of the weather, which maybe some of us Gambians will not do. And we will continue to be in solidarity with Cuba till death.
With Cuba till death, unfortunate phrase there, because this very weekend Donald Trump is saying he could take Cuba at any time and take over. So maybe by the next time we do a story, they'll be called the Donald Trump Medical Brigade, or they would have been disbanded, Mr. Mboj. But on a serious note, some interesting statements there about almost zero without the Cubans. The only ear, nose and throat specialist is a Cuban. We've talked about our sort of medical and allied health sciences graduates from the universities. This is something we obviously need to get up to speed pretty quickly, because if that Cuban person goes, it means there's zero. We're back to zero. So that's quite scary.
I've heard recordedly we have like 100
yeah.
Cuban doctors in this country.
That's right.
Imagine if we didn't have them.
Yeah, quite.
You know what I mean? That's food for thought. Extraordinary Cuba in many ways.
Yeah, well,
never mind what America's been trying to throttle it since the beginning. Yet now they can export
That's right.
medical expertise. So if I were that gentleman who spoke last, not that having them, not that having the Cubans here, how do we develop that revolutionary spirit?
That's right.
You will go to the hinterland, the villages, to really dispense medical care, as it were, instead of relying on them. How do we move on to self-sufficiency? I think that's really the key. How have they done it?
As I said, and
how
you know,
have they done it?
I was saying to the colleagues in the office, I said, you know, if there's nothing else, we need to say, what have they taught us? What have we learned from them? So if they do go, we said, okay, the Cubans have gone, but they left, they imprinted something in our minds that we can take forward, and that would be how we would honor them. Should they? Yeah.
That's it, because mentorship, as it were, providing local training is also that they do that as well. So yes, we will need that. But right now we know what's going on in Cuba.
Yeah, sure.
How would that affect the numbers who can come over here?
Indeed.
So we are always sort of at the mercy of what's happening outside. Things are very difficult in Cuba. So that's why I said to that gentleman, it's not about the Cubans coming. That will depend on what's going on politically over there. The only sustainable thing, let us develop our own self-sufficiency, even though one understands that in the short term, you know, we need them. We do not have capacity, but we should have an exit strategy, as we call it. There must be that prioritization of building capacity.
Let's hope we're doing that. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And that takes us to the break. And after the break, we will have 5 more stories. So you know what I'm going to say. Do not go away and join us after this commercial break. See you after the break. And welcome back. And if you're just joining us at this point, sorry, you missed 5 really good stories, but do not despair. 5 really good ones still to come. Week in Review. I'm Adi Darami. Across the table, Mr. Mamadou Mboj. And we'll get on with story number 6. First Lady Fatima Barrow was recently in Gunjur. What was she doing there? Leading a drive on Zero Waste Commemoration Day. Very interesting it was too. Have a look, have a listen.
Observed annually, the International Day of Zero Waste highlights the urgent need to tackle pollution and manage the over 2 billion tons of waste generated globally each year. The initiative, led by the United Nations Environment Programme and UN Habitat, encourages sustainable practice of refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and road. This year's focus is on food waste, with nearly 1 billion tons lost annually worldwide. With even a casual look around most parts of the Gambia, it becomes plain to see that we have a serious problem of waste management in most regions of the country.
People think it disappears, but it doesn't. It ends up in our streets, our oceans, our soil, and sometimes in the food that we eat.
She urged students to be active in the campaign, highlighting global efforts led by her counterpart Emin Erdogan, First Lady of Turkey, who champions Zero Waste movement.
Her message is clear. Protecting the environment is not just a choice, it is a responsibility.
It's a responsibility, Mr. Mboj, and the First Lady there, and we saw her going around and trying to, and also, of course, we hear about the Q group, Setal Sunyureo, trying to kind of drive home this thing about, you know, waste management, keeping the place tidy. But this year, the emphasis was on food waste specifically, not necessarily just the kind of, you know, it's about food waste, because about food that goes to waste effectively, and saying, you know, reuse, etc., etc. So a different focus this time.
Absolutely. In some families, whatever you dish out, you have to finish it.
This is true. This is true.
Absolutely.
And they'll be thinking, food waste? What are they talking about?
Yes, yes. And in others, absolutely. Yeah. You can go to an event.
Yeah.
It takes so much food. Just have a bit and you're done with it.
Don't get me started. Like don't get me started. I'm always arguing with people. I'm like, they come with a Mount Everest on their plate, and I'm thinking, you're never going to finish that. Yeah. And of course, they never do. They never do. They leave it there, and it always annoys me. I don't know why it does, but it always does. But that's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
That's it. And yes, the theme is food waste. But when you look at all other areas, there's so much waste really in the system. And then when we are done throwing it on the floor,
management of the waste.
Management of waste. Yeah. So this is it. It will be quite a journey for us to sort of enter that circular economy, as they say.
Yeah,
you just can't sort of, most of this sort of so-called waste can be turned into resources. How do we do that? That reorientation, I suspect, will take some time. When you look at our attitudes, what we do, I think that will take some time. I'm not hopeful that
I don't know, was it you? I was driving home the other day, and I said, these people are they just want to annoy me, because they kept throwing food from out of the car. And I thought, they must know that it's me driving behind them, and I'm going to complain about it on TV. But that's food waste, as much as, you know, half-eaten bread or something like that. And yeah, the management of that is like, we need a kind of re-education.
In our system, perhaps around the world, I suppose, you have that waste on one side, and on the other, you have people starving. It's an extraordinary imbalance, incongruity. How do we bring the two together? The extra food, the people who are starving, how do we do that? I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, the joke in our house amongst myself and my siblings, when somebody would about to walk off and leave at home their plate with, you know, half, we'd say, remember those starving kids in Africa, and that became our kind of punchline. And you'd come back and you'd finish it, you know. But you know, it's how do we kind of make that a kind of wider concept, and think it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one.
That's it. But I think that's the sort of thing that maybe you change generationally, isn't it?
Yeah.
In schools, as it were, start drumming in early.
At a very young age.
At a very young age. Yeah. Can you imagine with us now? I mean, we've been talking for a very long time, but one doesn't get the sense that people get that, especially when you're out there in the streets and see just how people just throw anything. It seems the message is not going through. But again, it's difficult for people to change their habits.
Yeah, quite.
Really, we've got this habit, so that's really difficult to change. I don't know, maybe it's a generational game.
I suspect it might be, but hey, we have to keep trying. But thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Story number 7, 1st of May Day, celebrated, commemorated around the world. And usually you have, you know, workers marching, and usually ends with some sporting activity. Same here. But also, some people felt the need to raise some serious issues and complain about certain things, as you would expect. Have a look, have a listen.
For many families, income is no longer enough to cover basic needs such as food, transport and housing. The matter that was raised 2 days ago by Omar Sise, president of the recently launched Federation of Labour Unions of the Gambia, who highlighted what he described as a widening gap between income and basic needs.
The Gambia National Trade Union Congress is alive to the poor working conditions, exploitation of workers, unlawful and unfair termination, irregular employment contracts, unpaid claims as a result of public holidays, work, leave areas, overtime, industrial accidents, unreported cases to the Injuries Commissioner of Compensation, redundancies without payment, unremitted social security contributions, etc. Employment increased significantly with over 163,000 additional Gambians engaged in the workforce since 2022, as reported by GBO's 2026 Labour Force survey just released, against a target of 150,000 set in the program.
The minister giving, nobody's saying that fewer workers are being employed, just that the working conditions under which people are employed are not that great. And we had a shopping list of kind of grievances. And I'd say the theme was worker solidarity and strengthening rights against economic inequality, which is why they felt the need to give this, as I said, a shopping list of things that, you know, people being made redundant without proper notice, people not getting paid when they should have, and so on. So quite a thing. As I said, it wasn't all jolly march past and sports. And there's some serious matters raised.
That's it. Worker solidarity. But how strong is unionism? That was traditionally.
We talked about, yes. We talked about FLOG recently launched, only recently.
Absolutely. But again, according to, I'm also quoting from the Gambia Labour Force Survey 2025 released by Gambia Bureau of Statistics, 81% of all employed persons in the Gambia work in the informal sector.
Yeah, quite.
And with such high levels of informality, then it correlates to certain conditions, certain situations where you don't want. Sometimes even your pay, there'll be delays in that, there'll be no pension, there'll be no insurance, there'll be none of that.
And there's no collective bargaining.
There's no collective bargaining. So that's it. How can they deal with that? How do you deal with a situation where most people are employed in the informal sector? I think that's really the fundamental logistical challenge that we will have.
Yeah, quite. I mean, I obviously grew up in Sierra Leone and I visited Sierra Leone year after year. But when I came here and I saw the number of these garages that have just kind of opened up, you know, by mechanics on the side of the road, they're not a proper business, and yet some of them are doing a thriving business. That's completely informal. The guy who owns it, the people who work for him or her, it's all informal. You know, how do you, as you said, 81%, that's huge, you know, and so, yes, we heard about all these grievances, but if it's an informal employment, then you're not going to get those guarantees that somebody would get who is in formal employment, has a proper contract, and so on.
Yes, sir. And the taxes as well.
And that's the thing I always say.
Which is really very important.
That's the thing that I always point out, that, you know, we say we're a tax-based economy, but when you have so many people working informally, and most of them, if not all of them, not paying taxes, that's huge loss to the country's, you know, kind of revenue collection model.
That's it. Yeah. So that's a massive challenge as well. Yeah. How do you formalize, as it were, this informal economy so that we can tax them and improve our services? So that's really the key. Yeah. So whilst, yes, we have 81%, but with certain sectors, they are much higher. Yeah. For instance, I'm told that in agriculture, 96%.
Ouch.
As it were.
Which I'm not surprised at, really, although I didn't realize it was that high.
Absolutely.
I knew it was high.
In industry, 78.5%, services, 65%, but that tells you.
Quite.
So that's really the key. I think people employed formally, I suspect that their situation is better.
Yeah, quite.
in many ways than those employed informally.
And in case anybody's thinking, what are these people talking about? So almost anybody watching this in the Gambia probably has a house help. How many of you have given your house help a formal contract and are paying taxes to that?
That's exactly
on behalf of that person.
That's exactly
and yet that's across the board.
That's it. Would it become a regulation and then enforceable? Maybe that's a difficult one. An enforceable regulation whereby I'd be scared to employ somebody without a contract and the person paying tax. That sort of thing. That way the country will generate more money, obviously. Instead of most of us, a good number of us, not paying tax, but we can criticize.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
You know,
we never discharge our responsibilities, but we are always insistent on this is my right, that is my right, that is my right. Not realizing the correlation.
Indeed, quite. So please, it'd be interesting to hear how many of you have a home help and you give them a proper contract. But thank you for that, Mr. Mbosh. Story number 8, and the 4th Banjul International Surgical Scientific Conference, quite a mouthful. And I went, and it was really, I was impressed, even as a lay person. Here's some of what went down.
Where there's a consensus, we must build better registries, we must have stronger record keeping, and a culture of prospective data collection. Another thing that stood out in this conference was the multidisciplinary team approach. That we cannot achieve our objectives if we all claim to be local champions in our corners. We need to understand our limitations and reach out to colleagues whenever necessary.
But we would want, for example, if you have 10 general surgeons in the Gambia, how about we sub-specialize? We can have a colorectal surgeon, an oncologist, someone that's only specialized in breast. So all these sub-specializations are quite important, and if we come together, we can achieve that.
Is it by luck that you are here? And is it by bad luck that the person in Pajakunda is born there? When he's sick in Pajakunda, where does he go sometimes? What schooling does he have? So we are fortunate, and we shouldn't forget that we are meant to serve people and to make sure they enjoy the same thing we are enjoying. If we don't do that, then we are failing humanity.
Failing humanity, Mr. Mbosh, as I said. So the kind of end of the conference was 2 days, but leading up to that, there'd been a week of outreach by people who come from Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and so on. And they'd gone and they'd kind of done pro bono work at hospitals and clinics before coming to do the talking bit. And one of the things that impressed me, and you know, I've gone to lots of these where people talk and talk and talk, but there was a simple presentation about a checklist, and I was telling you about it. Apparently there's a World Health Organization checklist that they recommend for hospitals and clinics, but it turned out not everybody uses it. And so somebody gave a presentation, and you could see people thinking that, I feel embarrassed that we don't use this to kind of keep, for example, an operating theater before, during, and after. There's a checklist. And so, you know, when Dr. Ibrahim Wada sort of gave his talk, he said, it's not about money. He said people should stop saying we don't have money. He said, what's the money involved in just having a copy of the checklist, and somebody's job it is to tick, make sure all of these things are done before, during, and after. He says it's not about money. Stop saying it's about money. And that was one of the things that really resonated with me, because you could see the impact it had on people who felt that they felt embarrassed that they weren't doing those simple things about keeping a hospital clean, a clinic clean, for want of not even doing a checklist.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes you wonder why the embarrassment. For me, the deeper question is, but why not?
Why were you not using it?
Why were you not using it? You see, for one reason or another, we know what we're supposed to do, but often we'll come up with sort of certain pretexts. We don't have the expertise, we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have this. But it's just as you said there, sometimes it's not about money. It's about being efficient, being dedicated, committed to really giving high service, high quality service. It's just that commitment, as it were, really. And then with some imagination, as it were, one could do so much. But we just rest on, oh, we don't have this, oh, we don't have that. You have to be resourcewell.
And for me, the shocking thing was when we went for lunch, and I was talking to some of the, I won't name these people, but there were some people, we were interacting because it was quite sort of nice conversation because I was showing an interest. And I said, were you aware of the WHO checklist? I said, yeah. I said, do you use it in your facility? They said, no. I said, why not? You know.
You keep, you see, good practice or best practice is not something that anybody just imposed through trial and error.
That's it.
You see, it emerged out of a certain experience through struggle, looking at this, looking at that, seeing its history. Then you come and say, okay, if I am at point A, I want to go to point B. Maybe this is the best route. That's really what best practice is, because you've looked at everything else. It's not a diktat from anybody. So you must be committed to delivering high standards. It must be a passion, as it were. But we've just settled for second best, you know, that ceiling on expectations. Absolutely. And we are supposed to understand. How many times have you heard, boy, fi Africa la boy? You know what I mean? The defeatist attitude. Oh, this is Africa. That is our problem. Have high standards. I don't know.
It's a big problem. Thanks for that, Mr. Mbodj. And before they yank the mics from us, we better get on to our final two stories. Story number 9. I suspect we won't spend too much time on this one, but there's been a national dialogue on, guess what, cross-border tourism. You know, us going to Senegal, Senegalese coming here. Is it going to happen? Does it happen? It happens already. Should it be happening a lot more? Have a look, have a listen.
Supported by the European Union under its tourism and creative industries component of the EU Youth Empowerment Project, this initiative comes as a direct result of a recent visit made to Senegal by the ministry to facilitate the exchange of ideas regarding its creative industry, during which both countries raised concerns over existing bottlenecks and cross-border challenges facing them.
The Gambia and Senegal, we have to complement each other when it comes to tourism. And then facilitation of border crossing and facilitation of movement is important to give us that competitive edge. Having the two countries come together to resolve this issue is important. We are one people. When the recommendations emerge from this consultation dialogue with the stakeholders, we're going to compile and engage our Senegalese counterpart through the Senegalo-Gambian Secretariat.
By discussing visa facilitation, border procedures, transport systems, and competitiveness challenges, you are laying the foundation for stronger bilateral and regional engagement.
Tourists don't remember our policy papers. You know, they remember the experience that they have coming into this country. So each and every one of us have the moral responsibility as a Gambian to make sure that we welcome people in this country with open arms without much of a hassle.
Never mind the moral responsibility. I think what came through when you listened to the whole tape of that conference was the fact that people's experiences at the border. It's a turn-off when you've been through and people have stiffed you for money that you're not even supposed to pay. I don't know why they do it, but they do it because they can get away with it, because they know that you're desperate to get to that other place and you don't want to go back. So you pay what you shouldn't pay. And then, you know, and that's the nightmare that we have to deal with. And I'm not even sure why in 2026 we're still talking about it, Mr. Mbodj.
Between Gambia and Senegal.
I mean, like, come on.
We've always had Senegalese people come over. Some of us, we have family, a good number of Gambians. We have family.
I was coming here, I would see it back and forth.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The minister said the moral responsibility, to which I said, what about policy efficiency?
Well,
something like that. Yeah. Yes. Recently, Korko, our cameraman, is it, that come from Guinea-Bissau, and at the border, his passport, who cares about the free trade and all of that? The guards at the border said to him, we don't care. They took his passport. That is the problem we have. Politicians will sit, I do not know, be it in our parliaments or in the capitals, and agree on all sorts of things. But on the ground, that's a very difficult one.
It's a very difficult one. But so I suspect this time next year we'll be having the same conversation, Mr. Mboj. Thank you for that. And that takes us to our final story. His Excellency the President met the Secretary General of the Commonwealth and also some representatives from the Women's Chamber of Commerce on the same day at State House. Have a look, have a listen.
You are now on the Human Rights Council. Whatever we can do to make your tenure at the Human Rights Council very impactful, we will do. Also, we are engaged with your Electoral Commission, whatever we can do in terms of support to ensure that your upcoming election is also successful and free, fair, transparent, and all of that, we will do.
She also extended an invitation to President Barrow to attend the upcoming Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting scheduled for November the 1st to the 4th in Antigua, Barbuda in the Caribbean, where key decisions affecting member states will be discussed.
Antigua and Barbuda hosts the 28th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting at a time of global turmoil, climatic upheaval, stalled growth, and lower standards of living. It is a moment of opportunity for the Commonwealth to rally round our common values and the common cause of making our democracies work for our 2.7 billion people.
Common values comes up every time, Commonwealth, and also come up the questions about what's the Commonwealth all about. Should they now form a kind of economic bloc? I don't think it's about to happen if it hasn't happened all these years against what is happening around the world, but that is what's happening. And I suspect Shirley Botry came here to convince His Excellency to attend this upcoming one in Antigua and Barbuda.
One suspects that possibly the Commonwealth will become even more irrelevant given the current geopolitical convulsions. How would it survive it?
That's the danger.
You know what I mean?
That's the danger.
And as well the link to the colonialism, isn't it? The British Empire really became the Commonwealth, as it were. So how would it survive that? Particularly in this climate now, we want to disengage, as it were, with the West and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I suppose they could help in areas like, I think the President asked, can they help us with the RRC, as it were, the recommendations, implementing them? Maybe in these areas they can help, and the Commonwealth scholarships, and then with the judiciary, you know, they used to provide judges and this sort of thing. Perhaps they could help in that way. But anything bigger, given its size, I'm not sure if it can.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if it can. I think that's a good full stop to end on, Mr. Mboj. Thank you for your interjections throughout the program. And to you, the viewer, thank you for watching. So, until we come your way again next week, goodbye.